Hey, Zaka family! Zaka is launching an exclusive membership platform to provide you with career development workshops, coaching, community, and so much more. Go to ZakaConnect.com and sign up to receive information on how to access early registration and perks. Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is Jerry Fortuna, who is the Big Three player, relations, and game day operations manager. Jerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Paul. Thank you. Pleasure to be
Ooh.
here.
Oh, it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. I'm
Let's go.
definitely intrigued, and I want to know a lot about this Big Three thing you got going on over there.
Yes,
I
sir.
watched the show, and it's definitely a good a good way to reconnect with some of these athletes.
Of course, of course.
You
What do you
know,
think?
so
Who's your favorite team so far? I'm putting you on the spot right now. Who do you like right now?
well, I haven't watched the game in a while.
Okay, okay.
I watched it when it first came out, and I was like,
Yeah,
okay, this is interesting. Like it was a whole new, spin on basketball and athletes. Having that
right.
opportunity to kind of come back into the game
Of
and be
course,
able to
yes.
play. A lot of times I grew up in the '80s, so like a lot of those '90s athletes, I think that was the players right there. Not
Of
saying that
course,
these
of
new ones
course.
ain't really doing it, but
Yeah,
the '90s had the games that everybody would be glued to the screen.
yeah. Besides the '90s, you had like the champion logo. Remember the jersey champion? You have like
Oh
those
yeah, of
throwback,
course.
Lakers and Bulls and Sixers. Man, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back like, and I'm from New York, and I'm gonna hear a little
Of
bit about
course.
where you're from, but like New York growing up, Patrick Ewing,
Yeah.
Stephon Marbury, John Starks, Allen Houston, like those are the players I was like, okay, like, that's the people I love growing up with, Anthony Masons,
Man,
those players
can't
were
go
like
wrong with yeah, amazing.
legends, legends in the games, legends. Larry. But yeah, no, I want to know a little bit about you, and I know the listeners want to know, and obviously we'll dive into a little bit more into what you do now currently. But like, where you from, directly?
So I tell people Los Angeles, California, but really it's West Covina, California. It's a small suburb city located 20 minutes out of downtown LA. So it's like pretty much down like LA.
Born and raised in LA.
Yeah, born and raised from
Okay,
80s baby to present time.
okay, okay. And where your family originally from? Where did they come from originally?
So my dad was born and raised Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo.
Hmm.
He came out here when he was like 19 years old. Met my mom, which she's from El Salvador. They both came over here at the age of 18, 19 year olds chasing the American dream.
And you have any siblings, or is just you?
No, I got a brother, younger brother. I call him my little brother, but he's taller than me, so it's cool. And then I got my sister, who's the middle child, and just us two.
Hmm. Now, obviously, having parents of Latin descent, right? So, what do you feel is like the common denominator between the El Salvador culture, but the Dominican culture as well?
Oh, that's a good question. I say the food's completely different. You know, Salvador, you got the pupusas, with curtido, it's like some cabbage. They have some salsa on it. They're big on cheese. Where you have the Dominican, you got the rice, the plantains, the bananas, more of a dry food. But I like both. I definitely like both
Mm-hmm.
dishes.
Okay, okay. You seem like you got a lot of going on over there. I like that. I like it. I like good food too.
Yeah, yes,
Now,
sir.
when you talk about your parents, right, coming from where they came from to migrating here, like obviously that takes a lot of effort, time, and energy to make that happen. Like, could you talk a little bit more about like what does the culture of where your parents originate from, but what does it mean to you, and how has it influenced you in your journey?
So I would say, my dad came out, he was like the oldest of eight brothers and sisters. And, as the oldest, he had to hold it down for the family, single mom, like my grandma. And he had like this good work ethic to him. So he installed that in me at a young age. He's like, work hard with what you want. Don't expect anything handed to you. Just go out and get what you want. And that's been my motto since I was a kid. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that has helped me get to where I'm at today. because I'm just chasing the dream,
Mhm,
breaking
mhm,
the barriers.
mhm. Now, how do you feel about your parents when they came in? Do you feel like they were breaking some barriers as well too? Like obviously coming out here,
Yeah.
leaving something that was very comfortable to them, possibly to finding a better living for yourself and for your brother. How is that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. They got here to the U.S. in the '70s. At a time where being a minority was a little tough. Especially out in the LA area, and they just kept on working. They came here with nothing. They got jobs, careers, were able to buy a house, and just provide for me, my brother, and sister.
Hmm. Now, you talked about the American dream, and really like grinding and putting in that work, which we're going to talk a lot more about the hustle you got going on because it's definitely something to talk about. But what does the American dream mean to you? And like, what do you think it meant to your parents back then in the '70s?
I think for them, it meant just providing for your family. Getting the best opportunity in life, education for your kids, and just give them a chance to succeed. I think that was what they were thinking of at that moment, and they wanted it for us.
Hmm. And what does it mean to you currently now in present time?
To me, I was being as a father, so I want to give my daughter the best opportunity in life. So I want her to see how hard I work, and just be like, hey, my dad can do it. Why can I? So I'm going to keep a generation to keep going on and on, that never give up, never stop, and just chase your dreams.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, growing up you said in the '80s, could you express a little bit more about your childhood growing up in LA? What was that like? Did you feel like you were around individuals that were a lot of Latin descent, or was it like very like a melting pot?
Um, I would say Latin descent, definitely. My parents worked a lot, so I stayed with my grandma's house. You know how that goes. And being around my grandma's house, watch novelas and Spanish soap opera shows. So that's how I learned Spanish. Like my mom and dad talked to me in English. For some reason, they just like, Bruno, you can speak English. But at my grandma's house, that's where I learned most of my Spanish, and it's still with me today. I can't speak it perfectly, but I understand it fluently. So I thank her
Hmm.
for that.
Hmm. And like, what were some of the challenges you think you faced? Obviously, learning Spanish, being Spanish, that obviously might have been a little at hard at times, especially if your grandmother's trying to give you that information. But like, what are some of the other challenges that you face as a child growing up around that time?
That's a good question. you know, to me, it was a big challenge. I accepted the culture quickly. I wasn't like, oh wait, like I'm confused, or why can't we speak English only? I enjoyed it. I like going back and forth. When I go home, it was English. When I go to my grandma's, it was Spanish, and learning the music as well. I'm a huge Latin. Like I love Latin music. Reggaeton's my thing, the bachata. So like I
Hmm. Hmm.
appreciate learning at a young age, because now I can enjoy all type of music. So it's not just hip hop or rap. Well, even though I work for one of the biggest hip hop icons in the world, reggaeton is still my number one choice.
Hmm. 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 So that means you got a little dance steps in you.
Nah, man, I didn't say all that. I didn't say all that. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to keep up. But yeah,
Okay, because you talking about reggaeton, you talking about hip
yeah.
hop. I'm saying I'm assuming you got a couple of steps in you.
Oh man,
Hey, look, but I don't know if you're pulling out a halftime performance.
oh man, nah. I wish if that was the case, I would have joined J-Lo at the Pepsi halftime show. But
Okay, okay, okay,
nah, it wasn't
okay.
me.
Now I know you wear multiple hats.
Right,
Obviously
right.
work in the entertainment business. Could you talk a little bit more about how you got started in the industry? Like, how did that work out?
Okay, let's see. Let's go back a little bit. I want to say it must have been around 2009 ish. I had a good buddy of mine. He played the NBA. He had a cool, amazing, not amazing story, but like he went through some hardships in life. He had a stroke, and he went from pretty much being paralyzed to getting back on his feet and playing basketball again. So long story short, he wrote a book, and he asked me for help, and I was like, okay, like let's try to make this into a movie. Long story, fast forward a little bit, the movie was not, didn't get picked up, but pitching into different studios like Sony and Fox and Warner Brothers. That's how I got my I guess my feet wet in the business and on the film
Mhm,
side.
mhm,
Like I said, the movie didn't get picked up, but it was a cool 4-year process. It's just, learning how to write a script, to, hiring a director, pitching Will Smith with, I'll leave that story for another day, but pitching Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith to be the leads in the movie. And it was a cool journey. Like, I don't regret it. People are like, oh, but you didn't do the movie. I don't regret it. And I met a lot of people in the process, and I guess it helped mold me to where I'm at now.
Mm. And how, like, when you started off, did you have anybody in the game kind of help mentoring you, coaching you, or was it like you just randomly said, this is it, we're gonna try this?
That was it. This is it. I was like, you know what? I like this industry, and I don't know anybody, but I'm gonna get to know somebody, and that's how it started.
Hmm. Now I know in the game, like it's always about you, and you talked about it a little earlier about like strong relationships, and
Right.
how do you build those strong relationships when you're like hustling? Sometimes in the industry, like you're always constantly on the go. So how are you building like those authentic relationships with somebody when you're constantly moving?
But I would say delivery is very important. So anybody can hustle and say something nice and tell you a beautiful story, but if you can't deliver that relationship, you can't build a relationship with that person. So if I tell an executive, hey, I'm gonna bring you the hottest actor, I discovered the hottest actor, and you don't deliver, they're not gonna answer your call next week. You know what I mean? And Hollywood and film and sports, they move that fast. So you got to move faster than them. So I was always able to deliver on everything I promised or brought to that table. If I say, hey, I'm gonna bring 50 Cent, to this concert, y'all pay us this money, and I'll bring 50 Cent. A lot of people, want to promote stuff and don't get the job done.
I see. So your word is gold right there. Like you got to really, when you say you're gonna pull up, you have to pull up.
Yep.
And there's like they always say, there's always someone right after you in the game, in the industry. So it's important to make sure that when you get in, if you ever get in, that you really make sure you stay there. And sometimes it's not mainly the amount of work you do, but like you said, like the relationships and those connections, because that really does help along the way.
Right.
Now, before you even got to that opportunity, like what are some of the odd jobs you actually had to go through, right? That might have not been the ideal job for you. Like what were some of those odd jobs?
Let's see. I did a lot because I'm a hustler, so I never turn down no money. Legal stuff, not illegal stuff, legal stuff.
True that.
I did start off working at UPS. That was cool, but it wasn't for me. I was like, I can't, end my career here. I worked at UPS for a while. I worked, loss prevention at Food for Less, and I was like, man, this is not it either. There was a time where, like I helped work at a flower shop. I cleaned and swept the floors, just open the store, close the store. Yeah, that's kind of like odd stuff that I've done.
Now, when you were working these odd jobs, so like what was one of the main things you took away from those opportunities?
No job's too small. So what I mean by that is, even though I, sweeping the floor, you think like, oh, it's just sweeping the floor. But then if you don't sweep the floor, the store doesn't look nice. The store looks like a mess. When customers come in, you think they want to spend money in this store if the floor is all messed up? No. So every little job detail that you apply to like your whatever career you're in, do the best you can, because there's always somebody out there watching you, you know what I mean? And they could be like, hey, this guy's a good worker. Let me hire him. You never know. He might be the CEO of Warner Brothers. You never know how you present yourself to some good customer that comes in the door. So that's what I always applied to.
Wow. Yeah, and I know sometimes when people work at these odd jobs, sometimes they get caught up and they forget that's not really their passion. The money's coming in, they get into that. But you seem like you kind of like broke through that barrier and kind of said, no, I want better for myself and for my future. Like what inspired you to really step out of that and be like, look, this is it? That moment where you were like, I could see me doing this for the rest of my life.
There were different times in my life that I had that moment, but I think the last one that was like, okay, this is really it. Must have been in it was recent too, 2019, where But for the pandemic, I was like, you know what, like it's this is do or die. Like I've been working for the big three, and and I like what I do, basketball and music and sports. I was like, I got to take it to the next level, and that was like my moment where like, I'm destined for this for the rest of my life.
Wow, well, congratulations on that, and kind of like coming to those moments where you kind of like center yourself back and say, look, I think that I know this is what I want, or this is something I want to kind of pursue and see where it takes me. Now, I know in the industry, one of the hardest things a lot of people have to do is kind of like advocate for themselves. Being put on the spot, asking for whether it be a raise or even for that opportunity. Like, could you just talk about some of those obstacles you face, like advocating for yourself during this time?
Um, Let me see. Let me see. That's a good question. I think when I first joined the Big Three, I really had to like, I was the only guy who didn't have like the NBA experience. A lot of coaches and staff members at one point in their careers worked in the NBA. So since I didn't have that, I definitely had to advocate myself. Like, look, even though I'm not NBA material, I can be. I know sports, I know basketball. Let me help you create this culture in the Big Three that has this NBA feel to it. So I think that was a big test, which I think I passed. Still here 5 years later. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Oh, now something that a lot of the listeners you're listening, we keep talking about the big three, right? So I want you to kind of give us a little bit of a breakdown of what that big three is, and talk about it's founded by the one and only Mr. Ice Cube himself, the historical icon, hip hop. Just just talk about that big three experience, and what exactly is going on over there.
So the Big Three was created in 2016, co-founded by Ice Cube and Jeff Quatnitz. It really originated from an idea where Cube was watching Kobe's last game, Kobe Bryant, and as we're all diehard Kobe fans, especially from LA, we couldn't accept the fact that Kobe will never play basketball again. Now, I'm not saying Cube created that just to get Kobe, but it was that influence idea where we need to have a platform for players who can still hoop, maybe not that high NBA level, but at the level where I can still compete, put on a good product and have a good time. So the Big Three is comprised of former NBA players, 3-on-3 half-court basketball, where they go out and we travel city to city, state to state every week, and just have a basketball season. And year one we had Kenyon Martin, Steven Jackson, Corey Maggette, Allen Iverson, one of the greatest guards of all time, and
hands down.
Yeah, hands down, right? He's up there. For me, he's like for me, I love Kobe, Jordan number one because I get it, he did it first, Kobe, and then Allen Iverson. He's up there definitely,
and he doesn't get a lot of credit sometimes. It's sad.
He does not.
It's sad. He was a trendsetter. He was a trailblazer. But sometimes in the game, and especially in the industry, which we could talk about a little bit too, is that like you might not be accepted, even if you're that great. And it's sad that Iverson got accepted by so many people, but might have not been able to cross over that barrier to get him to the next step.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And someone like yourself obviously did. Like, what did you have to do to get that amazing opportunity?
So I got to give credit where credit's due. So year one, when I first heard about the Big Three, I have a good friend of mine who still plays currently in the Big Three. He's one of the original, I call it original seven. He's original seven, or he's still around since day one. But anyways, his name is Derek Byers. Shout out to Derek Byers out of Miami. Vanderbilt, great. He asked me, "Look, man, like I'm gonna go try out for the Big Three. What do you think we should do? Where do you think I should go?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, go for it." And he asked me to come with them to the draft combine. I said, "All right, we'll go." And just be around these players. I'm like, man, like I grew up watching Gary Payton, Clyde Drexler, who else? Dr. J, Dr. J, Julius Erving. Just a little side note about Julius Erving, like obviously he's like an icon in basketball, right? And I was kind of like a little starstruck. But fast forward 5 years later, he's a good friend of mine. Like we always joke on the road and grab dinner or a drink. So that's a blessing. So like you can't, that's priceless. You can't pay me.
That's crazy. That's
He
crazy.
always looks for me, make sure I'm good on the road. And I'm like, man, it's Dr. J checking up on me. That's it. It's crazy.
The
But
doc,
that's what the big three's
the
about.
doc.
Like it creates this family environment,
Yeah,
It's more
yeah,
than
yeah.
just basketball. So anyways, let me get back on track. So then so being at the draft combine, seeing how the big three was going, and I was like, man, this is kind of crazy. I think it was June 25th, 2016, I believe. That was, no, sorry, 2017. That was the first game at Barclays Arena in New York, right? Brooklyn.
Mhm.
We had 19,500 people in the Barclays. We had Whoopi
Man.
Goldberg courtside, James Harden, Lou Williams, LL Cool J, celebrities go on and on and on. And I'm like, yo, Q got something. Like this is more than just a celebrity game or a charity game. This is real professional sports league. So I was like, yo, I got to be a part of this. Like, I don't know what I got to do to get on, but I got to get on. So then sure enough, on the road with D Byers and, met the whole staff. And then that led to a little internship. They're like, man, like you're around so much, like, let's put you to work. And that first season, like, man, you're good. Like, well, you want to get on? And I was like, sure. And been there ever since. My roles have changed throughout the years, but yeah, I've just been there since day one. Seeing the first tip off till present time is kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. And what do you do for them currently right now?
So that's a good question. It's a lot. So player relations, make sure the players are good on the road, as in like, make sure we all, when they check into the hotels, make sure, whatever they need, they come to me, they have their family in town, make sure everybody has a room or the bus, practice is going smooth. And then game day operations, same thing. Just make sure, like, we have a deal with CBS. So we're live on CBS on Sundays, 2 to 5. So make sure CBS has their stuff they need for the live games. Make sure, Ice Cube has his stuff for the game. He goes to every game. Like, he never misses a game. He's very involved founder. He's not just like, oh, let me sit at home and watch the game. No, like, he's there courtside, making sure the refs are doing their job, the coach is doing their job. So just we all assist the league and putting on a great product for the world to watch.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's when you think about it, like, you were a child watching these games, watching these players, and being like, wow, like even just going to an NBA game back then was like, wow, it's an eye opener. But you get an opportunity to work with these people almost every single day. Right. Talk to them, connect with them. You could even talk about the game that you watched them play. Like, yo, I remember when you took the winning shot. Like, those types of conversations are happening. Like, something that we talk about on Zaka is like, especially when you're working with these celebrities and these high net worth people, like, what are some of the qualities you think are necessary?
Just be yourself. Be honest yourself. You don't. How can I say this? Just be yourself. Like, for example, I think it was 2 years ago, virtual pandemic. We were in Dallas, and then I met not saying idols, but I met somebody who I admire, truly admire, and that's Mark Cuban. Big Shark Tank fan, and I'm like, yo, like when I saw Mark Cuban courtside at the Big Three game, I was like, man, Mark Cuban can support us. During halftime, I made my way there, and I was thinking to myself, like, what am I going to say? Like, what should I say? He's a billionaire. Like, how do I present myself? And it just clicked. I was like, I'm going to be myself. If he likes me for me, cool. If he doesn't, it is what it is. So sure enough, started joking with them and, tell him, hey man, like, hey Mark, I'm gonna be a billionaire just like you. And then he quickly caught on, I guess, my personality. He started playing back with me, like, no, you're not. Like, you're not better than me. We kind of joked around for 30 seconds. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that's a priceless moment. I don't ask a lot of people for pictures, but it was Mark Cuban. So we took a selfie. Put him on the gram, tagged him. Well, that night, not only did he see it, he reposted on his page and tagged me back. And I'm like, wow, it's Mark Cuban. Well, fast forward 3 years later, every time, we see Mark Cuban like once a year, he comes to Ice Cube concert or a Big Three event. And, he knows me, knows my name, my first and last name, we just clicked. And then the last time I saw him, I was like, hey, Mark, like, I was asking, like, why do you talk to me like that cool? Like, you don't have to. He's like, Jerry, because like you seem real genuine. Like, I could tell you're a sports fan, you're a business guy. He's like, he said, you're genuine, you're yourself. This is why I consider you like as a friend. And that meant the world to me. Hearing that from Mark Cuban, I was like, wow, okay, done. Mic drop. So to answer your question, just be yourself. People are going to recognize realness. Don't need to fake the fun. Don't need to do none of that. Just be yourself.
Now, that is sometimes easier said than done, especially in the game where, people, things are always evolving and people feel like they have to catch up. They're like, well, I got to possibly look like this or talk like this or move like this in order to, even get put on or even get an opportunity to get even looked at. But, if you stick to the basics of just being yourself and presenting yourself in its authentic self, then,
that's all it is. Because, no, you're right. I'm a minority. I don't have a college degree. I didn't go to university. So I'm everything that people you would think shouldn't be where I'm in the position I'm in now, and I'm in it. Why? Because I hustle and I'm just genuine. So that's my advice to the fans. Just be yourself and just hustle.
100%. Now, since you're talking about that right there, you kind of touched on it. Like, what does your culture mean to you, and how do you try to promote that in everything that you do? Like going back to like the roots of it all.
Right.
You're not providing the big three with some good food, are you? Right?
No, not yet. I gotta put them on some Dominican food. They don't know about that yet. Definitely, they stick to the steaks and rice. I'm like, man, y'all gotta try some.
They playing games.
Yeah, I know. Some plátanos. It's called plátano saconchado. They don't know about that.
Okay. You're making me hungry right here.
Man, right? Can we get DoorDash in here? No, just kidding. Man, but not for Big Three, music. Yeah, I do try to integrate my culture in it. Like I said, there's not a lot of Latin people in the NBA or basketball or in hip hop that we should be there. So I'm trying to put everybody on my back, sort of say, because like I said, if you're Hispanic, you're either in Latin music or you're not. But it shouldn't be that way. It should be like, I'm in the NBA. I could be in the Big Three. I could be in hip hop. So yeah.
Now I know we talking about hip. You just said the magical word, hip hop. Like, come on now, Ice Cube.
Yes.
Like that right there is. I mean, just thinking of the stuff that he's done, from movies to being an entrepreneur, philanthropist. Like, this man he came from, that Los Angeles area, growing up there, to making it to where he is right now and making a difference and impacting. And he's not even stopping. Like, even when he gains, even a yard, he's like, nah, I got another one. He's like someone who always will surprise the game with what he has coming up. Like when he dropped the whole Big Three, it was like, hold up, now he's in basketball? Like, what's going on over here? Right. So like, what is that relationship like, working with him and being able to see his work ethic and his grind?
So for Q, like, first of all, I consider he's a genius, man. Like, this dude never stops working. Like, I'm with him a lot on the road, not just Big Three, but on the music side and tours. And he's always working. And when I say working, I'm saying innovating. He's always thinking 5 steps ahead. So like I said, we first heard about the Big Three. Nobody knew what it was going to be like. It was like, what are you talking about? When he envisioned this new league, like literally like a league. We're not comparing with the NBA because NBA is the NBA, but this is like a new league. So 3-on-3 half-court basketball. I don't know if you guys know this, but after I think year 3 for us, the Olympics, they made 3-on-3 basketball into Olympic sport. It wasn't in there before. Now, I'm not saying because of Q, but you never know. Like, if Q didn't make the Big Three, there wouldn't be, FIBA out there in the Olympics right now. This was the first year where they had to go through basketball as an Olympic sport. So, man, I call this man a genius. Like, he's a good mentor, friend, and a genius. he's always thinking about, the future, and, for creating a great franchise of movies, icon in music, and now I could say like maybe an icon in sports. Man, like, come on, I got front row seats to the greatest show in the world right now.
Yeah, you are right about that. And you get to sit with your family members, you know what I'm saying, your close friends and people that you respect from way back in the days, to be sitting with them and helping to make some of those decisions, and kind of like move in the right direction, because
Right, right.
there is a lot of individuals out there that would, whether it be athletes or non-athletes, what I'm saying, that would appreciate something like this, being like, well, you know what, I grew up with those individuals. It's good to see them still doing it, because that inspires people every single day. To see some of your, like, I'm big on track and field, to see someone like Michael Johnson, who won, the Olympic gold in Atlanta, several medals and through his
Yeah.
career. Seeing him still running or training people inspires me to be like, you know what, I still got it in me if it came down to like running some track. And he inspired me at one point in time to get on the track and get back into it. So I could only imagine someone like Cube having that as a good mentor and a friend, to kind of go through that. What are some of the opportunities like that you have experienced with him along this journey? I know you talked about a tour, but like talk a little bit more about some of those places you've been to with him.
Places. We've been to a lot of places. You can sit here all day and talk about places, but I said doors opening. I mean, I've met some of the best people in the business, to some idols that I idolize, like some Mark Cubans, you know, meeting man, like I can't think of, Nicky Jam. I met Nicky. Like I said, I'm a reggaeton guy. So befriending Nicky Jam because of the big three, that's like, wow. He came to one of our games year 3 and fell in love with the league, and he's been number one supporters to this day. We have people like, me, Bad Bunny, and his managers, and they're all big fans of Big Three, and that's just like, man, like if you asked me this 5 years ago, there's no way I would have told you like this. My path would have crossed with them. So, working with Cuban, the Big Three has opened so many doors that I'm forever indebted and grateful.
Now, what is like some of your proudest achievements so far?
Proudest achievement. Oh,
I
good
know you've done a
question.
lot. I know you've done a lot, and you touched on a lot of things.
Done a
And
lot.
I know there's a lot more in store for you, but like
Right,
something
right.
that you can look back right now and be like, you know what, I did that. That was me.
Oh, let me see. So nothing from my nothing my career, but we were in where were we at recently? I think we were in Oakland or Fresno. We had a show out there with Mount Westmore. So Cuba, he has a tour right now with Mount Westmore. It's a group he created with E40, Too Short, and Snoop Dogg, and us in the Cube. Which is, if you haven't seen that show yet, you need to get those tickets.
I
Next
mean,
time
come
we're in
on,
your
you got
city, y'all gotta pull up. I'm telling you, like all your
to
nice
get it.
classics in 2.5 hours. Like you can't miss that.
That sounds crazy. I mean, if E40 came on stage talking about tell me when to go, I'm gonna go
Oh man,
crazy.
yeah, man, yeah. Nah, he's on there for sure. But I remember like the show was about to be over, and I looked at like I'm on stage, making sure everything's going smooth, and I see like this family, Hispanic family, and there was like this like kid. She was wearing like a Ice Cube shirt. I'm like, okay, like you must be like 10 years old, so I know you don't know like 90s Cube or NWA Cube, but we appreciate the support. And she's in tears, holding up a sign saying Ice Cube, wave at me. And I was like, damn, like this little girl in tears. So I go over there, and they're like, oh, like they see like, I'm part of the crew, and they're like, hey, like, do you know Ice Cube? I'm like, yeah. And then the little girl's like, I really would like to like give him a high five. And I was like, say less. So I bring him backstage. The whole family's freaking out, introduce her to Q. And man, they cried. Like that girl hugged Q so tight, she was crying. I was like, dude, like wow. So to see what's my great achievement, it might not be like on the career side, but just bringing fans, giving the opportunity to meet like their biggest idol or artist. Like to me, that was like, I could die tomorrow and my career's set. Like I did everything I wanted to do, because the way the little girl embraced Q was like, man, it's just priceless. It's priceless for sure.
You know, and we sometimes forget, especially when you're at these big shows, like the stage it's an empty room, empty venue, then all of a sudden
Right.
lights, camera, action,
Right.
and we forget sometimes because we're on to the next show that there's so many people in there that inspire them. They're crying. I remember watching I never really think about it, but even like Michael Jackson, when people used to
Yeah.
pass out just watching
Yeah.
him, like
Yeah.
just in the audience and just pass out. You forget sometimes like how much of a connection people have to these people, and then for someone like yourself to kind of like see that in them and being like, hey, look, come backstage. Like, let me try to make your day. That I know that girl's gonna be talking about that for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
that's an amazing thing. Now, you being an entrepreneur, you being a hustler, you grinding and stuff like that. Like, what is some of like the advice you could give to like someone young in the game coming up, who's trying to juggle multiple hats, who's trying to find a way into the industry, who's trying to, not get discouraged, when they're faced with these crazy wild obstacles coming up in the game?
I would say, first of all, pick what you want to do or get into and just go for it full throttle, but with no fear, no shame, grind. And when I say grind is like, man, like a lot of people come up to me on the road, like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? But then, like they don't put in the work. So put in the work. Get off Instagram, get off TikTok, get off Twitter, and just like close yourself in a room and just focus on your goals and go after every goal. Have that Mamba mentality.
Yeah.
I've done that. Young age, like people out partying, going to clubs. I was working. During the day, I'm out here pitching this movie, trying this movie done. At nighttime, I'm working at a flower shop, cleaning it up. Didn't sleeping 2 hours a day, if that. Why? Because if I work a 9 to 5 during the day, which is nothing wrong with 9 to 5, and say if I work a 9 to 5 during the day, I can't go take that call from this executive at Sony. And they tell me, hey man, I got 30 minutes, come to my office. I'm at a job. They're not gonna answer your call. So just true, right? It's true. It's like, they don't got time to waste. They got a million other people to talk to. So I always were like, yo, like I'm gonna sacrifice at a young age. I won't, I can go hang out at a bar later in life. Right now, let me get this career, let me get this money. So that's my advice to people. Like, just go for it 100%.
And set your family up, set yourself up. That's a very important thing, thinking about that future. Now, I know that we talked about your culture, where you're from. I know we talked about mom and dad. We talked about, like you said, there's not a lot of Latinos that are inside that type of industry that you're in currently right now, especially with, the big three and stuff. If I had to, kind of give you this last question right here, I kind of know, like, what are some of the challenges you see like Latinos face in your industry?
Good question. I don't see the obstacle, sort of say. What I think it is more maybe people, my culture, Latinos, they don't think they maybe belong in certain sports. But I think they should get that out of their minds. Like I said, we shouldn't just stick to the whole reggaeton just side of business, music, or working for a soccer league. If you want to go work for the NFL, go work for the NFL. If you want to go to the NBA, go to the NBA. And on the NBA side, I don't see them being giving us obstacles. I think like you said, we're not choosing that path. I'm choosing it, so I'm going for it. If you guys don't want to go for it, but I will. But yeah. I think that's my take on it.
Okay. Well, Jerry, man, I want to say first off, thank you for the inspiration. Thank you again for like the kind words of of just giving us your background, where you're from, and more importantly, giving us like a really like a template, a timeline of like from start to finish. Well, not finished, still going, right? Of your journey, because you did it in a very smooth way that anyone listening, hopefully listening, that knows how it went, how like the template, right? And I think something that's very important. Success leaves clues, and you dropped a lot of clues this session to kind of give a lot of the listeners some real good gems to walk away from. And I admire your work ethic and your grind. Keep going, because obviously that's definitely separates you from a lot of the individuals out there. Like you mentioned, your word is gold, and I feel like you definitely a man that delivers. So keep on delivering. And obviously, when you in New York, I might have to pull
Yes.
up the whole Zaka team. Might have to pull up, and and come to a
No,
game,
yeah,
or
yeah,
even just
yeah.
come to a concert or something like that. But it's
No,
it's
definitely, definitely. Yeah.
good to see that.
We'll be there in August 6th. We'll be out there. So yeah,
Ooh, look at that. I
we
might
got
have
a
to.
show up there at the Rock the Bells. So shout out to Rock the Bells for having us on there as well with LL Cool J. So we'll be there.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say is LL. Look at that,
Yep,
another
yep,
icon right there. So shout out to that.
yep,
Look.
yep,
Well,
yep.
we definitely connect. I want to let the listeners know if you want to hear more inspirational stories like Jerry, please check us out on ZakaConnect.com or follow our social at Zaka Connect and follow our feed, Zaka, wherever you listen to your podcast. Again, Jerry, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, guys.